Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Literary Hour with Jackie Sayegh and my teacher, Prof. Moses Nagbe. Welcome, Prof. Nagbe.
How you doing, Jackie?
Okay, today we have a treat. We are going to be discussing a book that is dear to my heart and dear to Prof. Nangbe's heart. And I'll start with a little blurb. Who am I is more than a question. The person asking the question may know his or her history, but he or she is asking which of the beliefs and values that she seems to possess or he seems to possess are truly his or her own and is expressive of who she or he is. This question is what we call the question of re-identification or reclaiming. So the question of identity is as old as time itself. Literature from all over the world have been seeking the answer to the age-old question, and Africa is no exception. We saw that with negritude. We even saw that with the Harlem Renaissance in the United States. A national literature emerges when a community whose collective existence is called in question tries to put together the reason for their existence. So Rita Barnyard, commonality and forgetting, she says, are linked in a country which an examination of the past has become central to the act of moving ahead as a nation. And of course, in Liberia, we are trying to move ahead. So nationhood and the language of resistance takes on a new material form in ways that suggest how language can expressively transcend cultural frames. Edward Gisan defines national literature as the emergence of a people's consciousness, the formative gestures towards nationhood. It has the purpose of reuniting the community around its myths, beliefs, its imaginations, and its ideology. It is literature in a hurry, whose rush to consciousness cannot afford to wait for a long time. So on talk shows, on Liberian talk shows, discussions, we've been hearing this discussion going on, this debate. Who are we as a people? When we say I'm a Liberian, what does it mean? So we will explore the search for self in the book, The Mystic Reformation of Gondolia. And I will turn over to Prof. Nangbe. Prof?
So we are working with Dempster's book today, The Mystic Reformation of Gondolia. And it is important to even add the other piece, which is that it is a satirical treatise on moral philosophy. A satirical treatise on moral philosophy. So I think what we are doing, because this work is deep, what we are doing in the first session of looking at the book, we will focus on the context, the context of the book. Every time an individual picks up a book, whether it is fiction or nonfiction, it is important to get a sense of some of the voices and forces that have inspired the book. Roland Tombekai Dempster was one of the principal serious intellectuals of his time. You can see that in his Mystic Reformation, and you can also see that in his poetry. So it is very important that we do the book justice. Roland Tombekai Dempster was the contribution of Cape Mount to the Liberian mosaic by people's contribution to the Liberian mosaic. We Liberians, we should never forget, we have been a tapestry of ethnicity brought together by fate, F-A-T-E, brought together by history. So diversity is an important part of our existence as a nation. In the past, especially in the days of Tubman, Tubman tried as much as possible to tout his unification spirit. But if you understand that, you will understand also that this was really meant to make us a unit whole of language, English. And so if you were not espousing things of English, it means you were not espousing things of the West. And if you were not espousing things of the West, it meant that you were nobody. Then comes Roland Tombekai Dempster, who plants a particular book in our midst and calls us to our own national identity. What makes us what we are? What makes us Liberians? What makes us Africans? These are some of the things he explores in a fictional form in the book we are looking at today.
You did. Before we start the book, maybe we should just talk a little bit about the man, Roland Dempster, because I think that he is one of the underappreciated writers of Africa, not just Liberia, of Africa. You know, I think that to give him justice, we should look at his life, and then from there we start to talk about the book. So we situated. So maybe we can talk a little bit about Roland. Who was Roland Tombekai Dempster?
Those who are familiar with the history of the University of Liberia will know that there was a version of college that came before the University of Liberia, and that was Liberia College. Liberia College, 1862 thereabout, and it ran all the way to the early 1950s, 1951. That was when the University of Liberia came into being, resting on the foundation that was laid by Liberia College. And that is where Roland Tombekai Dempster studied. And then of his time, he was able to acquire a master's degree. He was able to acquire a master's degree. A Time magazine issue carried his success, carried the story of having acquired a master's degree. He taught Latin and world literature. And so when you read the mystic Reformation of Gondolia, you find some Latin call to order in that work. And as we said, he originated from Cape Mount, and he came from a place called Toso. It's in the Tombe district. And even Momolu Dwalu Bukle, who produced the Vice script, also came from the Tombe district. It seems to me that the Tombe district happened to have been a place of literary giants.
Yeah, Cape Mount. Cape Mount has a lot of that. So we have the preface of Dempster, where he talked about, he started this book when he was 40, around in his 40s, and then he put the book down. He didn't finish the book, and he just pushed it aside. But when he got a scholarship to come and tour the United States, so he brought the book with him, and he started writing because he felt like what was going on in the world at the time. In fact, he even said that in Africa, he said that it really bothered him. So he wanted to complete the book. And it is very interesting. If I may read, he says, There are many things a man can do to near perfection, but at times he appears imperfect, not because of the lack of ability, but because of circumstances. And then he goes on to say, he prays that Liberians, if no one else, Liberians will appreciate a Liberian attempt at authorship, no matter of how little worth it may be. While it may be so in the literary world, it is certainly a beginning towards the refutation of the criticism that Liberians do not write. You know, and so he was aware that people did say, "Oh, Liberians don't write." So he was saying, "No, no, 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 no. Let me refute that." And then he dedicated the book to his. He called him my bosom friend, James Boyman McCritty, who died in 1948. And the book was reviewed or edited by Ruth Bond, who was the wife of the president of the University of Liberia at the time. Yeah, yeah. But Prof. Dempster died 1965. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
I have a special spot in my heart because he taught my father.
oh, okay.
Yeah, he taught my father, Emmanuel Mumbo Nagbe, he taught my father Latin and literature. Okay. So my dad graduated from Tubman College. You know, yeah, so he's and I'm glad you made the point where he spoke about the desire for Liberia and serious-minded Liberians to want to put Liberia on the map.
Yes.
As within the context of literature and all that. So he was kind of ambitious. In fact, at his time, they referred to him as the philosopher. And so it is not a surprise that he attaches a subtitle to his book by talking about the fact that it was a satirical treatise on moral philosophy.
Yes.
Treatise has to do with a well thought out, a methodically written piece of work. So when you look at his work, you find you can break it up, and you see how thoughtful he was in terms of this superhero that he brings into the picture. The initial appearance of this superhero and how he is rejected, and then he comes back, he is rejected again, and then when he comes in his full glory of authority and spirituality, he is able to advance the course of what he set out to do, which is reforming the society in which he, the Blama guy, which happened to be the superhero, was born.
And Prof, this book is so important. I think that it is one of the most important books to come out of Liberia, if not the most important book. So I want us to take it slow. Mm-hmm. We are going to discuss, we're going to situate it, and then we're going to continue discussing it.
Yes.
So we had put this book in protest literature. We said we had the different phases, and this was in protest literature. It was the same time other people were writing. But Dempster, when he wrote the book, he said, the inferences in the book are to no particular country or people. There are philosophies therein that can touch each people and nation. Why do you think he did that?
We have to go back to the meaning of satire.
Okay, so then we go back now. Yeah.
Yes, we go to satire. Satire happens to be a type of literature that exposes, it shames as well as shapes society.
Yes.
So in a satire, human follies, human mistakes, human stupidity, all those things are brought to the fore. Human beings are cast in the light that they don't want people to see or hear about.
Yes.
And it is in that process that probably something good is going to come out. It's probably because human beings will continue to be foolish. Human beings will continue to kind of rise to some kind of occasion. Again, at the heart of some of the things we are doing as far as this program is concerned, we are saying that literature helps us to rise to our higher calling. You cannot be in the state of foolishness for the entire part of your life. You cannot continue to be corrupt and destroy other people for the entire part of your life. There's got to be a moment in your life that you find the epiphany, you find the light. And that is what, for instance, he tried to do in the work. The other aspect is that sometimes people write satirical literature when they live in dangerous times,
Yes.
when they live in times of intolerant leaders and all that, so that to kind of make sure that they have more room to be able to discuss certain things, they have to willy-nilly get into allegorical writing, get into satirical writing. That was the case of Roland Tomekai Dempster in that writing.
And I was also thinking that with all of the things with Tubman or Albert Port,
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that, Dempster is working for the government.
Yes.
And he has to be very careful.
No doubt.
Yes. So he was being careful in writing his satirical treatise. Yeah.
And the language in that book, I think you have one or two excerpts, which either today or the next time. Yeah, he had some strong language for especially people who engage in political treachery,
Yeah.
backbiting and destroying one another just in the name of what the little 1 or 2 cents people got at the time.
Yes.
So he had to be on the side of making sure that, yes, the story will go out and no name, no blame.
No name, no blame. Yeah.
No name, no blame.
Yes.
And so he was engaged in that. And he, of course, he is not the first person to have ever done that, not only in Liberia, but in other parts of the world.
And then it's interesting that he did not say the transformation, the mystic transformation.
Mm-hmm.
He said the mystic reformation.
Reformation, yeah.
So let's look at that transformation versus reformation.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, Reformation is a kind of deep-seated analysis and then coming out with facets of life that will improve society. We know about the Reformation period that kind of broke up the Catholic Church into its tiny and I would say atomic constituents now, where you have Pentecostal, evangelicals, and all that. So Reformation is more of a traumatic type of change. It is not a, well, yeah, we can talk about transformation, but when we are talking about the superlative, it is Reformation as change that we can talk about. And that's what we find in that book, which is the mystic Reformation of Gondolia.
Yeah. So if we again situate the book, like what was happening at the time. So we are talking about the time of negritude. Mm-hmm. I know it had been discounted, but there were other people of African descent who were also trying to find their identity, trying to situate themselves in the whole.
Yeah.
So long before Achebe, long before the others, there was Roland Dempster.
Yes.
You know,
That's true.
yeah,
That's
and I've been listening to many of the discussion shows, Liberian discussion shows, and they're talking about culture and this, and I want to shout at them and say, this is not a new phenomenon.
yeah.
This has been
Mhm.
something that have been being wrestled in the Liberian society for
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
decades, for
Mhm.
centuries. You know,
Yeah.
people
Yes.
are saying, "Who am I, and how do I fit
Mhm.
in this place that I
Yes.
call home?"
Yes.
And in fact, even if I fit, what is this place? You know, like when we discuss, we say, when people travel, they go to museums. So if they go to Liberia, where do they go to say this? Oh, I can learn about the people from this.
Mhm.
And we talk about one of the dangers in that more and more we are situating ourselves in our ethnicity. Oh, I'm Grebo. Oh, I'm Bassa. And there is a danger there if you situate yourself in your specific group and not the overarching identity of Liberian. I am a Liberian. There's something wrong there.
Well, I don't know about wrong. It's more of Jackie. It's more of unless you understand yourself, you will not understand others.
Yes,
That's the first thing we have
I
to
know that.
understand.
Yeah, I
Unless
know.
you understand yourself, you will not understand others. The only thing is that there have to be thinkers. They have to, like the writers, there have to be people who will say that, yes, I am this person. Yes, I belong to this smaller group. And yet there is a bigger group. And then beyond the bigger. So in other words, we have to be in the business of understanding the cycles of identity.
Yes, yes,
We have
yes,
to understand the cycles of identity. First, the individual, the ethnicity, then the nationality. These and see how they work together. That's the thing
yes,
about it. That's where you and I come in. We
yes,
have to be able to let them know, yes, it is nothing wrong. I mean, in the technical sense, it is nothing wrong to be of the choir group. It is nothing wrong to be of the male group. It is nothing wrong to be of the Mandate group. It is nothing wrong to be of the Atlantic settlers group. But the thing about it is that you've got to understand that you cannot live in your cocoon.
yes,
You cannot live in your cocoon and survive. You've got to be able to find feelers to what? To link to other people and thereby create a whole. You remind me, therefore, of what Franz Fanon has talked about in Black Face and White Masks.
yes,
All right, the colonizer creates a society of these united parts. You now, having come of age, at least of intellectual age or academic age, you must be able to create the programs. You must be able to create the projects to bring people together so that there isn't something called the national bourgeoisie, and you
yes,
talk about the proletariat, and then you talk about the lumpen proletariat. You've got to understand that these people, each looking after the other, should be able to create a whole. And if it comes to attacking colonialism, then you stand and be able to fight as a group.
yeah. Because I always say that, like you were saying, like the national identity is like the house,
Yes.
right? And then you
Uh-huh.
have these different rooms. So your identity,
Precisely. Oh,
yes,
Jackie,
as a
yes.
woman, I have
Yes.
a room, and then
Yes.
as a crippled person, there's another room. But the
High five,
overarching,
high five. I can see your hand. And high five. Yes. That's right. That's what
but
it
the
is.
overarching is the
Uh-huh.
house,
Yes.
and yeah, and the
Yes.
house,
Mm-hmm.
and with Fanon, I think he was a psychiatrist.
Yes.
Yes, I think when I was reading The Wretched of the Earth,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
he said that as he started to work with those who have been colonized,
Yes.
he found that there was a deep crisis of the psyche.
Yes.
Yes, like they wanted, they equated humanity, not humanity, but they equated being advanced to be more like the colonizer.
Yes.
And that disconnect or that conflict in them created this deep crisis. And I remember he said, you can never be that person, because even if you are copy, the copy is never the original.
Yes.
So what you're gonna be is a caricature of that person, but you're never gonna be. But because the colonized wanted to be, that's where the crisis came from. They were trying to be, you know, and Dempster puts that in his book. As we go along, we will see that Dempster knew very well, you know, this crisis of identity in Liberia. He knew it.
Yeah, what Fanon tries to do in that book, The Wretched of the Earth, is he is calling us to reclaim our personhood.
Yes.
He is calling us to reclaim our personhood, because it is in our personhood that the energy of survival, that is where it lies.
Yes.
If you do not reclaim your personhood as a Black person, or whatever your race may be, if you don't reclaim that particular energy in you, definitely you will always seek validation slip from other people, and you must avoid seeking validation slip from other people. You are who you are. God made you what you are and who you are, and you must be able to find the energy to move on. That is what he is saying in that book.
Yeah,
and that is what, of course, as you correctly put it, that is what Roland Tomekai Dempster is also talking about in the Mystic Reformation of Gondolia.
Yeah. If we could have the fourth slide, Mr. Sayegh, if he can hear me, could we have the fourth slide? No, not that one. Please go up. It's not that one. Yeah, that one. So Frantz Fanon says that decolonization is truly the creation of the new man. But such a creation cannot be attributed to supernatural power. The thing colonized becomes a man through the very process of liberation. And then we have our own Sekou Touré, who said the culture of a people is necessarily determined by its material and moral conditions. The man and his surroundings constitute a whole. You know, so if you look at that slide, you will see that the top of it is the surface culture, the food, the language, the flag. But then there's a deep culture, right? The communication, the concepts, the notions of courtesy, friendship, attitudes towards elders, approaches. So that is what and Dempster we are trying to find that deep culture that makes us who we are, you know. And thank you, Anthony. And listening to, you know, I always say too, like, oh, I took my daughter to Liberia, but you could take the child to any country. You know, you're just taking them. The child goes to the country. That's not creating culture. What the child does is the child looks at the way you live and say, okay, that my mother is a Liberian. How does she manifest her Liberianness? And when she manifests, so through that, the child watches you. So going to Liberia doesn't mean anything. It means the child went, the child met their relatives, and the child had a good time. The child comes back, and the child hears you say, I don't have time for that country, or, you know, that those people, you know, and the child says, well, what is this? You know, there's a crisis right there. Because the child is saying, okay, I went, I saw, but now...
How can I conquer? How can I conquer?
So it's very interesting because, you know, and we have to be constantly aware of this fight, I guess, within us. You know, we have to be constantly aware of that, especially when we're around our kids. You know, we're not saying to say everything good about Liberia. Dempster didn't say that, but to be able to extol the virtues of that culture. You know, and through that, the child may get to learn. You know, and so Dempster is really, I would say, the architect. He is our Frantz Fanon. He is our David Diop. Our ABCs you know, all rolled up in one. Okay, Prof. So now,
one more thing. You know, in the quote that he had for Fanon,
Yeah.
When he talks about the new man, that new man is a creation of the colonizer. That new man becomes, in other aspect of politics, they will talk about the neo-colonialist. If you the book as it goes on, before we get to our man again, when you read, he talks about the national bourgeois. The national bourgeois does not even want to hear about decolonization of the mind,
Yes.
because he is closest to the colonizer in
Yes.
terms of the perks that he gets by a kind of exalting the colonizer, even in a basic way. It is the proletariat and the lumpen proletariat. Those two are people of the land. In fact, that brings me to by Timo. He did a poem called "The Strength of the Nation."
Okay.
There is a poem called "The Strength of the Nation," and he says the ordinary, the grassroots, they belong to the what? They belong to. They are seen as the strength of the nation, because when those who by training and everything, when war comes, can fly out, it is the ordinary people that continue to be over in the country, and therefore they remain the strength of the nation. And therefore, when we are talking about decolonization of the mind and what have you, we have to think about the Zogos, the Pempe boys, and what have you. Those are the people that Franz Fanon would call the what? The lumpen proletariat.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I agree. It's like what Steve Biko said. The greatest weapon of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed.
Yes.
You know, and so Dempster is trying to move to fix that. But
Yes.
but
Disabuse us of that. Yes.
But before we go to the book, maybe we should look at Dempster's poem, since we are talking about being true to oneself.
Yes.
Let's look at his poem, and then when we're done with that, we can enter Gondolia, and then we can continue again. So if Mr. Sia can put the poem "The Africa's Plea" up for us, yes. So here is Dempster's poem. I am not you, but you would not give me a chance, would not let me be. If I were you, but you know I'm not you, yet you will not let me be. You meddle, interfere in my affairs as if they were yours and you were mine. And you were me. You were unfair, you are unfair, unwise, foolish to think that I can be you, talk, act, and think like you. I think there's more, right? Talk, act, and think like you. So God made me, He made you.
Yes.
For God's sake, let me be.
Yes, and you can even pack in there the loudest of your voice.
Yes.
Like somebody, somebody is holding your hand, and you say, "Just leave me alone." Okay,
Yes.
just leave me alone. Leave me alone. Period.
Yes.
Get away from me. As if he's saying that. Yeah, get away from me.
And this could be on a personal level, but Dempster wrote this for the African Union or the African countries.
No, that is true. No, your observation is that's true.
To say the colonial power should just leave us.
That's what it. No, that's what it is.
Let us become who we are supposed to be. I can never be you. It's exactly what Franz Fanon said. It's what Dempster is saying. I can never be you.
Yes.
You know.
In fact, it's right in the title of the title of the poem.
Yes.
Africa's Plea.
Africa's Plea.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is what we are saying. Get away from us. Let us articulate our worldview. Let us articulate our very being. Leave us alone. That's what it's saying. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's slavish dependence. I mean, the first thing something happens, oh, we're going to this power, and Dempster is saying, I mean, there's nothing wrong in asking for help sometimes.
Yeah.
But it should not be the de facto. Oh, let's go.
Yes.
Oh, let's go. That creates this, culture.
The culture. No, the culture of dependency is really hurting us in a very bad way. The culture of dependence. thing about, when we cough, we want help. When we sneeze, we want help. When we fall, we want help. In fact, it took in a very long time. It took our civil war. It took our civil war to bring us to our senses that we Liberians are Africans.
Yes.
Period. We Liberians are Africans. Some time ago, even in the Ivory Coast, they would prefer to call us les petits Américains.
Yes.
We were small Americans, and we took it and put it on our head. It was nothing small. Everything. Oh, we are Americans and whatever. And when the war came, and America was saying, "Well, it is your trouble. You started it, so it belongs to you." And what have you? I am not saying at some point that these were powers and all. They didn't chip in, but who heard our cry and came so much in a strong way? It had to be our fellow Africans. They came and started the ball rolling before things started coming in here. The help started coming in here and there. Therefore, our first understanding is we are Africans. And we have to be able to dig into our cultures to find what is there that will help us thrive.
Yes. So, do we have any comments that we want to read before we start with our book? Okay, so, yes, it was Mr. Wallow who mentioned the book Gondolia.
That's someone who asked a thing about Thomas, right? Yeah, the mystic Reformation of Gondolia. Yes, that's right. Thank you, Sam.
Yes, we are going to explore this book. We're really going to tear it apart, look at the characters, and see how those characters exist today. Yeah.
Yes.
So, Prof, once there was on the continent of called Gondolia.
Okay. Well, you see, that's what we're talking about. That is, he is showing his Latin strength. Tenebrum is darkness, and that is what others have always referred to Africa with. Yes, that we are of the dark continent. Yes, and you can see if you remember the motto of the University of Liberia: "Lux in tenebris."
Yes.
Lux in light in darkness. So he talks about in the continent of tenebrum.
Yes, and in Gondolia, there were the haves and the have-nots, right? And to be a true Gondolian, you had to have.
Yes.
Yes.
But what he does in the book is that, mind you now, he has the country comprises of seven provinces or what have you, and he goes to the extent to a kind of provide the characteristics of each of those provinces.
Yes.
There are some that have a little simplicity about them, and they are often interested in people motivating them. And there are others that are contemptuous of young people. Every little thing that the young people do, they bring harsh punishment on them. There are others. Go ahead.
No. I was just thinking about the fact that we're talking about numerology, but we can talk about that later. Please go ahead.
Yes, numerology. Yes, that's right. So in this same Gondolia, there are people with shallow thinking.
Yes.
You see, he goes to, that's the thing about the book. He goes to work to provide the cultural environment. Is environment within environment, culture within culture. You talk about subcultures and what have you. So he's describing them. We talk about those who are simple. You you can motivate them by saying certain things or doing certain things, and there are others who have shallow thinking. There are others that are just impressionists. How many Liberians have we not seen that are impressionists? You are not what you profess you are. You really are not a. But of course, you have to put on some kind of thing to make people think that you are when you are really not. So in that country, there were impressionists, and there were political tricksters. And there were people who were grossly selfish.
Yes.
And yet there were people who were often receptive to new ideas.
One of the things in that chapter is about the people who would break the law with impunity.
Yes.
It's like there was a special class of Colombians who were above the law.
Yes.
They could do anything they wanted. And I wonder where we've seen that.
I don't know. don't
I'm going to be like Roland Dempster. It's in every country. It's in every country, So he goes to the mission or the work at 7, right?
Yeah. Blama, yes.
Yeah, Blama. And we're talking about that, about the number 7 and the number 3. So we'll see throughout the book, there's the number 7, there's the number 3. Do you want to talk about that, about numerology a little bit?
Again, you're talking about numerology, yes. 7 in several cultures, even including African culture. 7 has a very magical appeal to it. It references the completeness of things. It references the completeness of things. Even if you bring it to the Judeo-Christian order of religion, you find out that 7. You talk about creation. You talk about the creation story. I'm sure the creation story might be a part of the Islamic religion, which is part of the Abrahamic trio of religion. So 7, as I said, 7 has to do, because, as I said, you talk about the creation story. God created this world, and in the 7th day he rested. So 7 has a sense of completion. 7 has a sense of satisfaction, and 7 has a sense of the comfort zone of the mind. That's what 7. And of course, 3 too. You talk about the beginning of things. You talk about the middle of things, and you talk about the end of things. So that triad of creativity is part of what. Yes. That's what.
I'm sorry. It's like I lost. I couldn't find the thing.
Oh, okay. Well, yes. Okay. That's technology. That's technology.
but in the first chapter,
yeah,
he talked about how this country was rich and the people were poor. But then he said that there was a missing link. This is the missing link that Blama sets out to explore. Yeah, but looking at the people in that town, it's almost as if to say they were unaware that there was a missing link. They were like, like, let me be. They were totally unaware. They did what they wanted to do. The poor people were on the other side, and the wealthy people just enjoyed Gondolia.
Yeah.
Yes. So
that is.
No, I'm listening. No, I was sorry, Prof. You go ahead.
No, the thing about it is, yes, that you see, when someone is talking something that is delicious, you just you almost want to snap it. That's the thing about what we're trying to say. That's what I came to. But the thing about it is, that reminds me of Plato's allegory of the cave.
Of the cave, yes.
These people, poor as they are, things are going on in the cave, and because they hadn't seen any other thing by which to compare their lives. They believed that whatever they were talking about, whatever life they were living was good, until someone from their midst went out there, got it. But even when that person came back, there was confusion. This guy said, what are you talking about? This is the life we've lived. This is the darkness we've been in. And you were talking about there is something out there that is light. You have clear colors and what have you. You've got to be safe. So that is in every nation. Sometimes you find those things to be true, that people live a life and not having had another life by which they will compare their lives, they kind of treasure their lives, however horrible it may be. It has to take someone the likes of Blama to be able to bring people to their senses.
So Blama is, I mean, okay, so after he grew up, right, he started to have arguments with the people in power. Right, the people didn't want to see Blama. When Blama would say something for them to change the society, they weren't about that, you know. So he got in a lot of trouble.
Yes, you know? And that is why, as we read, that is why at the age of 37, he becomes so frustrated. He becomes a pariah. And since he becomes a pariah, he can get his way through a number of things. That is what brings about the thinking, which if we are thinking about the mystical world that Dempster created, he goes to sleep, Blama goes to sleep and is there for 7 years.
But Prof, the interesting thing about this town or this society, Gondolia, is that they had their leader was good. So because if you remember, when Blama started to speak out against all the things that were going bad in the country, the people of Gondolia went to the king to say you have to put him out. This man has to go. But he didn't want to do it. Zandi, the great emperor of Gondolia, did not want to do it.
Might we say that this guy was playing politics out there? Dempster was playing politics out there to say that the head was good, but every time I think about that, I say, well, Peking had to play his own cards too. You
mean that he actually wanted Blama to go?
No, what I'm saying is that it's a society he lives in now. Dempster lives in now, and if he wrote in such a way so that shallow thinkers will want to say, Thomas, you see that you, he say, is so bad. So the best thing to say the best thing to say is that many people in the country were bad, but the leader was a good leader, and therefore he had a listening. Even though he had a listening ear, he was someone who had his own mind as well. He would not want to fall for what other people were saying to kind of kill Blama and take him out. It may not have been what Dempster set out to, but given how things sometimes turn out to be, that's how people will easily read what he was saying about the population, a good part of the population being bad, but the leader being good, and therefore would not ostracize Blama.
Okay. Could we have the second slide, if we can? So in the society, right? In the society, I'm still kind of like confused about when Blama fell asleep. Okay. So this is just a little bit about Wole Soyinka. He says, when the writer in his own society can no longer function as a conscience, he must recognize that his choice lies between denying himself totally or withdrawing. The artist has always functioned in African society as the record of mores and experience of his society, and as the voice of vision in his own time. So he was talking about Dempster. Because Dempster, the Reformation is futuristic. Blama has no faith in the current system.
Yeah.
He sees no faith. It's not like she's thinking about transforming Gondolia. No, Gondolia is done for.
Yeah.
It's you need now a reformation.
Yeah.
For the new Gondolia, not this. We're not transforming this.
Exactly.
We're reforming the system. Yeah.
Tear it all apart. Tear it all apart and rebuild. Tear it all apart and rebuild. That is because the thing about it is, think about what you find. It's like you cannot put new wine into old bottles.
Bottles, yeah.
No, you cannot do that. If you do that, definitely even the aesthetic aspect of the bottle, whatever they made of it and what have you, will begin to corrupt the wine itself. Yes. Therefore, you've got to destroy the whole thing and build anew. Build anew. That becomes the most important thing to do, and that's where Reformation comes into the picture.
Yeah. Because in the chapters, he said that the government owes you nothing but law, order, and protection. So he was talking about the people who felt like, well, the government owes me a job. Yeah. So, and this is Achebe, who says, I believe it is impossible to write anything in Africa without some kind of commitment, some kind of message, some kind of protest. In fact, I should say all our writers, whether they are aware of it or not, are committed writers. The whole pattern of life demands that you should protest, that you should put in a word for your history, your traditions, your religion, and so on. Yeah.
Those are powerful. Those are powerful statements over there. The thing about it, clearly, the human society is a society that has so many foibles, so many vices, and what have you. Left to its own existence, it is going to decay.
Yes.
Therefore, there have to be people who continue to prick the consciences of the people.
Yes.
And without that, definitely nothing substantive, nothing progressive comes in the picture. That is why, Achebe talks about Africa, but in the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, even in Russia today, and all other countries, even in the very free society, the very free society is not totally free.
Yeah, is that? Yeah.
Therefore, the thing about it is governed by human beings, and human beings have a lot more vices sometimes than even the virtues. Therefore, those who are writers, they have to continue to prick the consciences of people. Those who are in religion, they have to do the same thing. If you may, this is what is called the Gadfly, Gadfly, Gadfly phenomenon. Yes, as the Socrates talked about. There has to be the media, and in the media, who puts things in the media, the writers and all journalists and all those people. So there have to be that Gadfly phenomenon where people continue to group in a way to break the consciences of those who lead. Because no sooner had some people become leaders than they become complacent. They think that they are even gods, and there has to be someone to disabuse them of such thinking.
And as we go along, we will see that we will try to list the evils that Lama was talking about.
Yes.
And one of the things that he was very big on was cultural education. Because if you remember in the book, he says, how will you ever create a nation without teaching the children the ideologies of your own land?
How can you do that?
Yes.
Just how?
I remember that when we were at the University of Liberia, they had Liberian languages that they were teaching. They had African art with Vanja Richards, you know, and some of those things are gone. And right, I don't think they teach African language or any Liberian language. I may be wrong at the university. So Gondolia is saying, I mean, Blama is saying, how will you ever create a nation without teaching the children the ideologies of your own land? And then he goes on to say, in most of your schools, you teach the children more about other peoples and nations of the world than your own. You permit others in your country to teach your youth their way of life, and your youth knows nothing of your own. What a folly and a piece of absurdity. And then the second one, yeah. And
Go ahead.
no. I was saying the other one was what I had said before. Why the individual owes the state all. The state owes him nothing except law, order, and protection. But let's talk about cultural education, because Sekou Touré says the man and his environment constitute a whole, right? So what kind of environment do you think that...
Some time ago, we talk about nature and nurture, this whole thing about the way you were born and what environment does and what have you. That is what Sekou Touré is talking about there.
Yes.
The thing about it is that we are born certain ways, but an environment has to be created in which we grow. If we grow in a hateful environment, if we grow in a lazy environment, that is what we will become.
Yes.
That is what we will become. There has to be that environment that is fertile enough to be able to make us develop good thinkers, loving people, who are grateful to people here and there. Those are important things. And in the case of the quote about what government owes people, everything even in our Liberian society, people know that they are collecting debt all around themselves. The debt that will make them sick and what have you. They will say, I don't know what government doing to do this thing for us. I don't know what government do. They never create silos of thinkers to make sure that their environments are clean. So many things. And so the statement that was placed in the mouth of Blama is so much a strong statement as far as how people relate to government, the citizens, how they relate to government. I know there are times that government has to bring in resources, but simple little things that people could do, they will wait for government. And so if government doesn't come in, nothing else is done. Even if it is going to go to the point of their own illnesses and death, they will They will sit supinely. And that is tragic.
Yeah, there's we discussed that with the on the education panel that people talk about civics all the time, right?
Yes.
That civics. I want to teach civics in school, but civics is just the knowledge of the government, patriotism, and volunteering.
Yes.
So if you are to translate civics into the real world, why don't you let the students build bathrooms? If there are not enough bathrooms, you build bathrooms. For the parents, if you have some money, what is stopping you from going to a carpenter and saying, make me 4 chairs, and donating the chairs? So this sitting back, as the people in Gondolia did, it is eating us, because like in the morning you see people just standing, among dirt. I'm not saying that the mayor should not be the one charged to clean the place.
He has to be part of it.
But we used to clean our place. So Gondolia and Blama is saying that, look, we need a reformation.
Yes.
So we have comments. If you could put the comments there, we can answer the comments. Thanks to okay. Thank you. Yeah. And then
the same comment.
You run from the surface culture. Yeah, that's true. Yes. Yes. Definitely. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. Yeah. Okay, we put Blama in when he asks of his people's future. Prof, we should put that down to answer. Okay, I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take the Blama. Let's take the Blama first, and then we will come to the same wallow about the yeah. So Blama. There are two questions asked. The first one is, where will we place Blama in this thing? Blama the wise. Where will we place him? And then the second one is that the people, the slaves, why were they so euphoric and they were just saying whatever they wanted to say?
But so you create, so you see. So you create, so you see. The thing about those questions, I know people we have to, but if we are talking about how you were born and the environment you create, that what we see in this whole context, the phenomenon called slavery, people broke the humanity of other individuals. They, in a sense, turn other human beings naked both figuratively and literally. So by the time they grew into the system, they didn't see themselves as being anybody's. They were somewhat like cultural zombies. They were walking, and yet they didn't know what was impacting their own lives, or at least they saw the stripes on their backs and what have you, and they knew that they were not themselves. So there has to be. So when you think about, oh, slavery has done this, slavery has done that, what have you? Yes, we should acknowledge that. That is the first thing. Once we acknowledge that and see how slavery has broken people and what have you, the next thing now is to say, all is not lost. We have to be able to reclaim ourselves. All is not lost should be the mantra of the next phase of our lives. All is not lost. Yes, there's the ex-slaves went home and it kind of knocked pride out of our people and what have you. How about the children of the indigenous people? How about the children of the indigenous people? What can they rally around and do? How about the new Liberia? Why can't we get together now and begin to see what to do as opposed to always blaming the past? Remember Kennedy. Kennedy has said that I am not here to what? To curse the night, but to what? Light a candle. It is about time that we began to light a candle for the future, for ourselves and posterity.
Yeah. Two things about James's question. That's what we're doing. When we get to the end of the book, then we will decide where do we fit Blama. Blama is on this mission, right? He's traveling through these different stages, this journey. And we will get, when we get to the end, we will say, okay, audience, where do you think Blama fits? About the euphoria, sometimes when you're a slave, you say, he killed my mom, he killed my pa, I'll vote for him. So you kind of like have this devil may care. I don't care, I can say anything. And I think sometimes that's what comes when the slaves, they can say anything, because how much lower can they go? There's nothing lower for the secrecy. Don't forget, Blama is wise now. So Blama sees things. So when you say why is Blama in secret or not in secret? Because Blama knows things. He went to his sleep and Blama got up and he knows things. But I hope you will stay with us as we dissect the novel next week. We're going chapter by chapter next week.
Yeah.
But I would like to finish with Sam Wallow's question. So when you're trying to make people subservient, you're not going to say, "Oh, they're just like me." You have to make them lesser.
Demonize them.
You have to demonize and dehumanize.
Yes.
Right? Because a lot of times people say, why is it that, like the Irish Americans, they came on the ships to America, but they were treated better than the black men and women that they brought to work, right? Because if you're going to make somebody almost subhuman, like the slave, it becomes, you would dehumanize that person and you would make them lesser. Because if you are going to subjugate them and they are like you, what does it say about your humanity? You have to tell yourself, oh, they are not human. They are subhuman. They are not like us. And that way, when you're trying to do evil to them, you don't feel so bad.
We saw that in the Rwanda, yes.
Roaches, right? You said they were roaches.
Yes.
So you dehumanize them.
Yes.
Another thing about Frantz Fanon and the conditioning.
Yes.
If you remember, there was a guy who did an experiment. What he did, he had fish, right, in the aquarium, and he took a clear plastic glass, and he put it in the middle of the aquarium. So every time the fish would swim, it would hit the glass. Then it would go back. Every time it would try to get to the end of the aquarium because it knew the length, right? The fish knew the length, but it couldn't get, it would hit the glass, it goes back. And what happened? The fish started to swim in smaller circles. It got adjusted to the glass, right? To the plastic. And then the guy removed the plastic and made it even smaller. And the fish kept hitting the glass until the fish learned to swim in smaller circles. That is conditioning. And that's what happened to the, I would say, Liberian society at the time. You know, that for ill or good, nobody, we would not judge now. We're in our new transformed, reformed, working for Reformation. This is what happened. And don't forget, Sam, the mission of the freed people who came was a Christianizing mission. So the indigenous people were considered heathens and savages.
Yes.
And I'm saying that because that's what it says in the annual report of the American Colonization Society.
Yes.
So when you say they stripped the people, they stripped them because they said their religion were heathenism and they were going to Christianize them. That was the mission of the American Colonization Society, a Christianizing, civilizing mission, right? So when we are talking about that, we say that with Dempster and all of the others, we are going to learn, right? We're going to relearn. We're going to reclaim. Because you remember, like the Hutus and the Tutsis, right? They said they were one people. But when the Belgians came, the Belgians said, oh, no. Let me measure your nose. And if your nose is long, you're a Tutsi. And if you're taller, you're a Tutsi. And straight nose and tall and height, you are in the elite class. And if you're Hutu with a broad nose and you're shorter, you're in the subservient, you're in the lesser class. And that's how this hierarchy was created. So man makes the distinction, you know, and that's what we're trying to do with Dempster. We're trying to reclaim. We're trying to look at Dempster and say, what is it in this book, or what are the elements in this book that we need to get to be able to have this thing called a Liberian identity? What does it mean, according to the writer Blama? The euphoria of the slaves led them to saying whatever they said.
Blama is not a writer. It's that person who is a Blama is not a writer. It's Dempster who is a writer. Please, Blama is the key character in the story. Okay, so we have to understand those things so that we don't pose questions that are a little off.
And I guess if you look at it, if you're down and you have nothing to lose, what else you can say whatever you want,
Yeah.
you know. So the slaves, yes, they were scared, but I don't know which chapter he and James is referring to, but
Mhm.
we can answer that more as we go along in the book. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, James. Yeah, but this book is very interesting. You know, if you can get a copy and read and we can discuss, it's fine. If not, you just, follow us as we're reading because it's really a very, very good book. You know, it dissects the Liberian society. And Sam is right. If you just move the date, it could be today. And that's what we are going to do. We are going to go
Yeah.
character by character and see what it is that Blama saw and see how we can best look at the elements when he comes to the end, right? This new country. How can we take those elements and apply it to our own country? Culture, education, love of country, patriotism. That is the journey we are on. So we set the stage. We've told you that it's in protest literature. It's a satire. It's actually a moral philosophy, right,
Yeah.
Prof?
Mhm.
We
Yes,
did
yes, yes.
discuss
Moral,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
moral philosophy.
Yeah, but next week we
Mhm.
go chapter by chapter.
Yeah.
We call a character name and we discuss the character
Mhm,
and we come
mhm.
to the end and then we can move from there. I thank you for joining us today. Thanks. I mean, all of you like myself, we've learned so much from you, Prof. Nangbe. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
I learned
joining
from
us.
you all too.
Our little chats in the evening to discuss the book. Please stay on and we can chat a little bit after this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you everybody and happy weekend. Be safe and always remember we are all Liberians.
Yeah.
We are Liberian. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Ilẹ̀ everyone. Liberia, oh. Ilẹ̀ everyone. Liberia, Liberia.